You've probably heard this 1,000 times. You need an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses just in case. It's one of the golden rules of personal finance, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth in 2026. That old advice might not actually save you. In fact, your so-called emergency fund might already be quietly losing value while you're watching this video. Let's talk about why and what you should be doing instead. So first, let's start with the real purpose of an emergency fund. It's supposed to protect you when life throws you a financial curveball, a car repair, a medical bill, maybe losing your job. The idea is that you've got a cushion of cash so you don't have to go into debt when things go wrong. Perfectly logical. But here's the catch. That logic assumes one thing, that your emergency fund keeps its value. And in 2026, that assumption doesn't really hold up anymore. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've got $10,000 sitting in your emergency fund, maybe in a traditional savings account at a big bank. It feels good, safe, secure. But inflation right now is still eating away at around 3 to 4% of your money every single year. That means after 1 year your $10,000 is worth about $9,600 in purchasing power. After 2 years, you've lost close to $800 in value just by doing nothing. And what are banks paying you on that savings account? Maybe 0.4% if you're lucky. So while you're earning a few dollars in interest, you're losing hundreds to inflation. You're not saving your slowly bleeding money. Now some people might say, okay, but I'll just move my money into a high-yield savings account. Great idea, except here's the twist. Even the best high-yield accounts right now are offering around 4 to 5%, but those rates can change overnight. As interest rates drop, those juicy returns vanish fast. Meanwhile, prices for food, rent, healthcare, they don't drop with them. So while most Americans think their emergency fund is protecting them, what it's actually doing is quietly shrinking in value every single month. But here's the real reason this matters so much in 2026. We're living in a world where emergencies are getting more expensive and less predictable. Healthcare costs are up over 7% this year. The average car repair is nearly $600. The average job loss now takes 20 to 24 weeks to recover from. That's 6 months of no paycheck. So when financial experts say 3 to 6 months of expenses, that number isn't outdated. Because it's wrong, it's outdated because the math doesn't work anymore. 6 months of expenses today isn't enough for the kinds of emergencies Americans are actually facing in 2026. And yet, most people's emergency fund still looks exactly the same as it did 10 years ago. A small savings account, no growth, just sitting there being safe. But the economy you're living in today isn't safe. Prices move faster, jobs change faster, and one unexpected bill can snowball into a financial disaster way quicker than it used to. So let's get practical. If the traditional emergency fund is losing its power, what's the smarter way to build one in 2026? I call it the layered emergency fund strategy, and it's how financially smart people are adapting to this new world. Layer 1 is your immediate access cash. This is money you can tap within 24 hours for a true emergency. Think flat tire, medical copay, sudden travel, a broken phone when you absolutely need it. You don't need 6 months sitting here. Just 1 month of expenses, parked in a high-yield savings account with instant access. That's your buffer against panic. Layer 2 is your short-term safety net. This is where you put the next 2 to 4 months of expenses, but not in a regular bank account. Instead, put it in something like a treasury-backed money market fund or a short-term treasury ETF. These are still very low risk, but they actually keep up with inflation. You're earning around 5% right now, and you can still access it within a few days if needed. It's the perfect balance between safety and growth. Layer 3 is your extended cushion. This is money you hopefully never need to touch. But it's there in case life really hits the fan, like a long-term job loss or medical emergency. For this layer, you can go for something slightly more growth-oriented but still liquid, like a conservative bond ETF or even a taxable brokerage account holding short-term index funds. The key is diversification. You're spreading your safety net across different vehicles that actually protect you against both emergencies and inflation. That's how wealthy people think about emergency funds, not just as cash in the bank, but as a system designed to protect purchasing power. Now, let me say something that might sound controversial in 2026. Holding too much cash is actually risky. Yeah, you heard that right. Because when inflation outpaces your interest, your savings aren't safe, they're guaranteed losses. And here's the crazy part. Most people will feel that pain only when it's too late, when their emergency fund can no longer cover an emergency. Let's take a real-world example. Suppose you saved up $15,000 as your emergency fund in 2020. Back then, the average rent in America was around $1,100. Today, it's over $1,600. Gas, groceries, insurance, all higher. So that same $15,000 that once covered 6 months of expenses might now barely stretch to 4. You didn't do anything wrong. You just lost the time. That's the silent danger of a static emergency fund in a dynamic world. Now, some people might argue, but I don't want to risk my emergency fund in the market. Totally fair. But here's the secret. You don't have to. The modern financial system gives you tools that didn't exist 10 years ago, like high-yield cash accounts from fintechs, treasury ladders you can build online in minutes, or stablecoins backed by government securities for people who are crypto-inclined. The point isn't where you keep it, it's that you stop pretending the old-school savings account is enough. And while we're at it, let's talk about the mindset shift that separates people who stay stuck from people who build real financial resilience. The old advice says, save and wait for bad things to happen. The new advice says, prepare, but make your money work while you wait, because emergencies don't wait. They don't care about your savings plan or your comfort zone. And if your money isn't growing even a little, you're not protecting yourself, you're slowly falling behind. So if you want your emergency fund to actually work in 2026, here's what to do this week. Audit your savings. How much do you have, and where is it sitting? Check the interest rate. If it's below 4%, move it. Split it into layers. 1 month of instant cash, 3 to 5 months, in a low-risk growth account. Revisit it twice a year. Inflation, interest rates, and your expenses all change. Your safety net should too. And maybe most importantly, stop thinking of your emergency fund as dead money. Think of it as sleeping money. It should rest safely, but still grow quietly in the background. Because the truth is, the emergencies we're facing now are bigger, pricier, and less predictable than ever. So if your money isn't adapting with the times, it's not protecting you, it's holding you back. So yeah, your emergency fund might be useless in 2026, but it doesn't have to be. Not if you evolve with it. Because financial security isn't just about having money set aside. It's about having money that keeps its power. And if you can master that, you'll never fear the next financial emergency because you'll already be ready for it.